Hey, welcome to Recovery Reach. My name is Cliff McDonald. I'm the Chief Growth Officer at recovery.com. Really excited to have my friend and fellow recovery leader here, Wade Muhlhauser. Hey, Wade.
Hey there. I'm super excited to be here.
This is great. Wade is CEO and founder of Plugged In Recovery. And the topic today is turning story into strategy, building a brand that converts in behavioral health. So in a space where trust is everything, storytelling isn't fluff, it's infrastructure. Wade Muhlhauser knows this firsthand. As a founder and executive in behavioral health, he's blended personal narrative with corporate discipline to build brands that resonate deeply and perform consistently. With a background in high-level corporate roles and now a leader in addiction and mental health treatment, Wade has translated his story into a strategic differentiator, built admissions playbooks informed by KPIs, and grown audiences through alumni engagement and lifestyle-driven content. From cold plunges to care transitions, he's mastered the art of blending authenticity with operational strategy. In this episode, we dig into how founders can market with both soul and scale, and why the journey from sober living to outpatient should feel like a guided path, not a sales funnel. All right, Wade, you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's jump right into it. Your founder story is compelling, but also strategic. How did you shape your personal journey into a brand asset that builds trust and drives conversions?
Well, again, thank you for having me on the show here today. And I'm super excited to talk to a friend in this conversation. That's a great question. And I think we spoke about it a little bit on the panel that we got to be on together this morning. It's authenticity. It's not hiding from who you are and using my own personal story, my own personal experiences to just share with the world in a very authentic and vulnerable way. By doing so, that's allowed me to not have to hide any skeletons in the closet of who I've been or anything that's happened on my journey, but just show up as authentically me and tell other people with a reaching hand out that, hey, I've been through this before myself and I'm willing to show you the way as well. So really bringing that into now a digital world with social media and so many other aspects that we can share that story with clips and videos and testimonials. That's really what I've used to drive our admissions and marketing process at Plugged In Recovery.
I love meeting people in this industry that also are in recovery. And we hear a lot about lived experience, right? So how long have you been in behavioral health as a business person?
Yeah, so I only got into the space in the late 2021, rolling into 2022.
Okay. So did it take you some time? I know it did for me to really be able to be open, because I think for a long time we had been hiding, right? And we don't want people to know our authentic self, right? And that's what the disease does to us. So shifting from that towards, oh, cool, now I can be open. Like that's a hard switch for some. It's faster for others. Talk about that shift. Was that something you had to like really work yourself into, or did that come easily?
I'm one of the lucky ones where it came pretty easy to me and not by choice. I had a corporate job that I excelled at very, very well. And unfortunately, due to my disease, I had to deal with that in the public eye at the company. I had to take a couple 30-day vacations from my previous job. And rather than coming back with a tail between my legs or anything like that, it was more so, hey, I needed help. I'm working on it. I'm working through it. And luckily, I had a company that completely had my back. They supported me every piece of the journey of if I had to go or if I needed some extended care or whatever it was, they had my back. So it became very public. And when I was able to just kind of own it, of everybody already knows, you know, Wade's gone again for 30 days.
Right. And he takes these long vacations.
He has no kids. He has no anything. There's no excuses, right? So when I just owned it, it allowed me to just really be authentic with who I am. And it was helpful. And I think you probably can share this as well. But the second I came out of the closet with, hey, I have addiction and I really struggle with this. And there's parts of me that, you know, I wish I could present this face all the time, but really there's this guy under here who just can't get it together. So many more people would reach out to me, even 100%. At my previous organization for help. And how'd you do it? And I have this person I need help with, or I'm looking for a counselor, or whatever it was. So it was an easy transition for me, but it wasn't by choice.
Yeah, I can really relate to that. I was outed as well by my wife, and my sister shared graphic details of my condition with a lot of my former college football teammates. And I was filled with embarrassment, guilt, and shame initially. Now looking back, that's such a gift that we were able to be open in public because the secret was already out,
Yeah.
right? Oh, that's fantastic. I would imagine those people that saw you struggle and now they see you doing this work. That's pretty cool that you've got a lot of people that were able to witness that transformation and now see you giving back.
It's one of the real blessings of the program to get to show up in that type of way and then get to also say thank you. Thank you for sticking by me. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for helping me be honest at a time where I couldn't be honest.
Yeah, for sure. So in that question, I use the word conversions, and this is really tricky, right? A conversion, the way I interpret that is someone becomes, they admit, right? And that is a transactional event in any type of industry. How do you balance that, right? Like, this is a conversion. We got someone admitted. Obviously, we know we have a strong feeling of we're going to be able to help them. But how do you feel about that term? Conversion?
I don't like the term.
Yeah, okay.
I don't like the term.
Any other recommendations? Because this is something we hear in the industry. It's a conversion. A conversion is when someone buys a tennis racket. It's a conversion. In digital marketing, they converted. I also don't like that. I don't like when people talk about leads. Right? Yeah. We're talking about humans.
Exactly.
How can we do any thoughts? How can we do better there?
I think it starts with leadership and it's how you reframe those conversations. I say that how many conversations are we having? How many people have we had a conversation with where we've had follow up and follow through on? I think when it comes to percentages and numbers and stuff like that, you can get very granular, which does help. At the same time, how am I at the top communicating that with my admissions team? Always reminding these are people. How many people are we helping today?
Yeah.
How many people were we not able to help?
Right.
And when you start really reframing their thinking into that, you can see it top level down, that patient care and the whole remembering why we're doing this seems to stick at the forefront of everybody's mind.
So if I'm working on the admissions team with your business, I will never hear the term conversion.
No.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love a concept of how many people did we help to take that big, huge first step today?
Yes, I love that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Right. So let's see if we can share that with the rest of the industry some way.
I hope.
Yeah,
I hope.
Absolutely. So you mentioned the corporate background, right? My personal opinion is that our space is filled with awesome, wonderful, compassionate people that really want to help, but low business acumen. You bring a corporate background into behavioral health. What KPIs, systems, frameworks from that world shape your admissions and marketing strategy?
So I think a lot of it actually shapes our business as a whole. It was very easy for me and I started on the sober living side, which I know that we'll get into, but even on that side of things, it was very easy for me to realize that we have nothing if we can't track it. If we don't have systems in place, we're losing out on opportunities to help more people and we're losing out on opportunities to scale and grow. And that's one thing, just even to the previous question that I always talk about with our team is the reason I get so frustrated on missed opportunities is because those are more people that we can't help. I'm big on scholarship opportunities. If I feel someone deserves an opportunity based on what they've spoken to me, I will give you a shot at getting better if they really, really want it. But to be able to do that and provide for my employees and staff and everybody that I have, that means we have to excel on all these other areas. When you bring in systems, scorecards, meetings, morning huddles, end of the day check-ins, weekly summaries of what activities are we doing and what are we working on? Who did we help today? What good conversations did we have? Another big one for us is what 3 people did you get to know? And I don't want to know what's their first name, where are they from, anything that I could find in basically my ERM software. I want to know on a personal level, what did you sit down and get to know about that person? And that's something that I had always learned from other business leaders and other mentors of mine in the corporate world of if you don't know your clients, even if you do sell them in that moment, they're never going to stick with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So were your roles in corporate business development-ish?
Business development and sales.
Okay, sales marketing.
Yep.
Okay, so you're used to having a CRM. You have to put information into.
Yes.
I have to capture this information. This industry, this happens all the time where someone will talk to someone that's looking for help. They don't capture all the information, right? You're very different with that approach. You have a good tech stack, for lack of a better term.
A great tech stack.
Okay.
We're always trying to improve our tech stack. That is something that as a core belief that we have because technology has gotten to a point where we can get so much better in the care that we provide if everything is buttoned up on the back end. And as we grow and as we scale and look for other opportunities, if our systems aren't in place, it's not going to be repeatable or attractive to other people.
Yeah, absolutely. My personal belief is that we heard this today. There aren't a lot of strong brands in behavioral healthcare. I think in so many ways, there's an advantage for a newcomer in our industry. The space is crowded, it's competitive, but starting today, it's so much easier to build a tech stack today than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. You're a relatively newcomer in the space with your company. Do you feel like that's been a competitive advantage for you?
Big time.
Okay.
And I see it just in little changes that I make. It's a little pain when I move from this CRM to that CRM or Microsoft email to Google email, whatever it may be. But I don't have that much data that I'm losing. I don't have that many bad habits out of employees that they've been using it for this way so long that it's so hard to get them to move at a high speed. I'm all about action and doing things at speed the right way. And so being able to find different systems and implement them, I don't have Jackie at the front desk who's been entering it in an Excel spreadsheet the same exact way for the last 10 years.
Right.
And we're never going to get her to change. You know, I don't have that battle, which is a huge advantage for us.
Yeah. You don't have legacy systems. So I was in technology 1997 to 2004, and companies would avoid doing system changes and software changes, right? Because of fear.
Yeah.
And like, we're going to mess it up. We're going to lose data. It will be really difficult for the users. Those changes aren't that hard anymore.
No.
Right. Do you rely on partners for technology guidance? Do you have like a CIO, a CTO? Like, how do you do the tech part of your business? How do you manage that?
So I'm really lucky. And something else that you had hit on earlier is you come into this space and you see a lot of people who I think they have good intentions and good hearts, and they have worked their way up from either being a BHT to a case manager to an admissions to a BD, and they want to start their own treatment center. And then they go and open up a place, and maybe things don't work out, whether they were ill-intentioned or not. But then it looks like, oh, well, you have this manipulative drug addict who started this company and now they're taking from other people. And it's just really given the industry kind of a bad rap. And I think a lot of it is just they don't have the foresight and the knowledge. And I know what I know. I know what I don't know. And I'm completely blind to what I don't know. I don't know, you know?
Yeah, of course.
So I brought on a COO and a partner, Scott, and he comes from the tech space and he's built up and sold companies before. So for me, I know that I'm very good at the sales, the marketing, the advertising, getting out there in person, getting into different treatment centers and things of that nature, going to conferences. And I know what he really excels at is the system, the technology, the marketing campaigns on the back end, automated things. And so being able to bring someone else who's built something up, already sold it, has a lot of the experience of how do you get over this hurdle in place, and is just an outside perspective on the space, not being in it at all, has been instrumental in the last 6 months of our takeoff.
I see a lot of premium providers, companies in the space that are doing really good work that don't have 95% of their team that are in recovery. I love having people with lived experience. I also love having people that aren't from this space and they bring fresh perspective, higher level of business acumen. What led you to make that hire? Did you have a bad hire before?
The position was kind of open, and I had seen roadblocks that I was coming into that I was spending so much time trying to figure out, which were things that I had no business running my head into a wall, as I should be focused on doing the things that grow the business and scale the business and the relationships and fostering those, really spending time with the patients and our staff who are with the patients and growing and learning them. And so just from my other business experience, it's if you don't know something, hire someone to replace your time, buy back your time. You know, it's a Dan Martell thing, buy back your time so you can be spending it where you should. And 98% of our company now is all in recovery. And anybody who's client facing or deals with a patient in any way, shape, or form, I have in recovery because I really, really believed in lived experiences is where you're going to connect with someone. However, on a leadership scale and a company side of things, I would also assume the same. I only want people who have experience.
Yeah, leadership, lived experience is not the top criteria for my CTO, CIO, or COO.
Yes.
That's great. You've got a great fellow executive leader now, COO / CIO kind of?
Both.
Okay, great. Which frees you up.
Big time.
And you're the CEO.
Yep.
So CEOs can do a number of different things. I'm going to pivot a little bit. You've got a sales and marketing background. My guess is you're still really involved with that part of the business.
Big time.
Okay, great. So I know you've leaned into lifestyle and alumni-driven content like wellness rituals, cold plunges, recovery stories. How has that influenced audience growth, engagement, inquiries?
Big time. Because I think, and I spoke on this earlier, that the easiest way to get out to a new audience and really let them see who you are as a brand and who you are as a person is just being authentic and vulnerable in front of a camera. And when I don't have to say, go look at one of my Google reviews, but I can say, hey, go to my Instagram and check out the resident of the week and who in our sober living just got congratulated for doing the hard work and showing up and what they have to say about not only what they're doing currently, but what program has helped them get to where they are today. That's what speaks volumes. And to me, that's the feel good. The feel good is watching someone who came in, not on a winning streak. You also spoke about that earlier, is no one comes in on a winning streak. And I always joke about that. I said, yeah, I've yet to meet the person who just won on a scratcher or hit the lottery, walk into a treatment center because now today's the day to get help.
Right.
But what we do see is someone who is broken, battered, beaten down, whether it's financially, just emotionally, spiritually, and then them rebuilding their life and us being able to highlight that. And then highlight some key features that we do with that process. Our holistic approach of cold plunges and equine therapy and art therapy and getting people new experiences in sobriety. And it's not something to see me in a cold plunge doing a video myself, telling you what I'm going through or feeling. So you get to know me. That's a big advantage for us.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I agree with the strategy and it's proven to be effective, yet so many aren't doing it. Did you learn this in a class? Did you have a consultant? Did you learn it in your corporate space? Or did it just feel right to kind of approach your business this way? Or was it a combination of those factors?
I came from the corporate side and it was tech corporate. So we had been doing a lot on social media and stuff like that. So I would say there is a piece of that there. But also, I think I saw where the gap in the space is and where there's a huge mistrust factor in recovery and in treatment and in mental health. Everybody thinks it's this big money grab and you're not there to help people. You're there to keep people sick and for repeat customers and all of that type of stuff. And so the only way to really break down those barriers, just like in recovery, is I couldn't get to where I'm at today unless I shedded the skin and I said, no, this 100%. Is who I am.
Yep.
This is who we are.
Yep.
And so I think it was the natural, what felt right. Yeah, we're rough around the edges.
Yeah.
Yes, I might not speak perfectly in every video that I say, but the person who cares about that most is me. Usually not the person watching it.
Yeah.
The person who cares most about that is me. And so once I was able to get over myself and my ego and my pride and say, I messed that up. I wish I would have said this differently, and just look at the reinforcement it gets from the business. I really do wish more organizations would do it because it would help change that public perception that much more, where we might get more people who seek help.
100%. I love it. I find it very inspiring. I have a loud inner critic. And every time I share something about myself, that critic reminds me that it's there in two ways. Like, I'm doing this wrong and it's not really good and people don't care. And also, like, who am I to bring attention to myself? What makes me keep doing it is every time I do it, people tell me that helped me. And as you probably, your phone's blowing up with people, right? Like, Wade, my brother's struggling. Wade, right? I think it's really cool that this is directly tied to you being outed.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Where like you couldn't hide. And I know a bunch of people that are in our group here of like, that ends up really being a great gift. I'm also inspired by how many people are recovering out loud. Are you seeing that more?
Big time.
Okay.
Big time.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's something where people have come to a realization that, especially post-COVID, they're not 1 in 20, 1 in 30, this oddball that no one deals with it. You go to any family in the United States of America and they're either impacted or know someone who's directly impacted with addiction. And now you add in the mental health component and it almost affects every family in America. And so I think people realizing that by using their voice and seeing every side of the scale, you have to learn, you're not going to go after something that you don't see someone has what you want. And so that was my biggest problem in the rooms for a long time is I would sit in the back and be like, I don't want to be like any of these people. I don't want to work at McDonald's. I don't want to do this. Like I can't be one of these people. And then I got into a different crowd where I started seeing very successful business owners and people who owned, car dealerships and were huge on podcasts and who have these same problems. And I said, wow, maybe if I figure my stuff out, I could be like them. And when I started seeing that and I could start modeling my behaviors after those, I know for anything I've ever wanted in life, there's a blueprint that someone else has done.
Yeah.
And if I just follow what they've done, I'll get what they got. It's no different than that. So I think that's really inspired people to say, hey, I'm out in the open. So people can look to them and say, I've dealt with your same struggles, or I want to get to where you're at. And if you can do it, I can do it too.
Well, as let's say partners in being out in recovery, let's keep doing it, man.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you to keep doing it because it's great and helps me and everyone else. We got to do this together. And to pivot a little bit, the continuum of care is fascinating. You know, that there's many different ways to get help, right? Depending on the acuity, depending on the resources, right? Some people go to residential treatment for 90 days. Some people get sober in, 12-step meetings. And then there's step down, right? Levels of care that are very different. A lot of brands struggle to communicate the transition from sober living to residential to outpatient without really confusing people that are looking for help. How do you market those steps as like a connected continuum?
I'm really lucky because I started this thing backwards. I started with sober living and then went to residential and then went to outpatient. So most people would start either outpatient sober living, then residential, or residential outpatient sober living. They would not go the order that I went. And it really makes no sense. So that's not my advice to you to go start that way. However, what I'll say is that it made me cross barriers faster than most business owners would have to on how you describe that process. It also has opened up the door where we figured out that we can have people who are calling for sober living and they may not be ready for sober living.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't even detoxed, or they have 2 days under their belt, or they've had a week or a streak where it's just been continual. So it's allowed me at that point to really have discussions with, and it's my admissions team who's doing it mainly at this point, but we have that discussion of where you at, where are you at? What are your goals? What are your goals for your recovery? Well, I really want to kick this thing in the curb, or I need to work and pay child support or whatever it is. And so we can have the discussion on what the success rates look like when you complete a full continuum of care, and what they look like if you cut that in half or a third. And so we make it as one big part of our process is, generally speaking, most people are going to start in a detox and go to residential treatment. From residential treatment, they're going to step down to a sober living facility where they're also going to, go into a PHP level of care. And once they've completed a month in PHP, they'll generally step down to 2 months of IOP. Now, everybody can't commit to that whole process, but we will never go a phone call without educating them on what that looks like. And then again, using the tools of social media, it's very easy for us to explain that in a video of what that looks like. And people get to see our residents having fun in sober living. They get to go to a Diamondbacks game or, bowling or movie nights or whatever it is. And then they also get to see what we're doing on the residential and outpatient scale with the videos of our patients doing equine or people doing that. We get all of those experiences built in. And so we try to tell that story visually versus just the phone conversation.
Sure. So Wade, today, can someone stay a part of your plugged in community, for lack of a better term, detox, residential, PHP, sober living, that's all the same brand?
I don't have the detox yet. So that is the one piece that is a yet for me that I'm actually working on. But right now you can go, and I have referral partners for detox, but it's residential, outpatient, sober living is our continuum of care. So I have some people who have been with me now on the residential side that started in residential all the way through for 10 months and we're almost a year old. But I have people who are sober living residents who have been with me for almost 3 years.
Wow. And men and women?
Men and women.
Okay.
Yep.
As you know, our industry doesn't have good data on outcomes. However, one data point that we've had for a long time is length of time.
Yes.
There is a correlation with length of time and effectiveness of treatment. The payer model, right? Private pay, commercial insurance, Medicare, Medicaid. What are you guys doing in that space right now?
So we're out of network facility for our residential. We are working on some in-network contracts that then can carry over to the outpatient. And then for the sober living side in Arizona, it's all cash pay.
Right.
So there's no insurance for that. But we stay out of network on that. So we're a little bit more on the luxury side. But I've started this company on giving people a luxury feel at a reduced rate. Sure. I always wanted it to be a place that if my mom needed to send me to, she could have sent me to. Mm-hmm. And that's why I have probably a bleeding heart for some scholarships and things of that nature, because I was scholarshiped at one point.
Yeah.
And so we are on the out of network side for that, but things are changing it. For us growing to 14 sober livings, a residential treatment center, and an outpatient in, 3 years, and really the treatment center and outpatient in the last year, I'm really excited for the next year. We will be opening up a couple more things. And that's the biggest thing, is move fast and kind of create a wave. And our whole goal and vision is to create a ripple in the recovery community. And that's what we truly are after doing.
That's awesome. I love it. You are moving fast and seeing opportunities to help in filling that void. That's fantastic. I'm going to get back to the marketing and talk about content. Content is sometimes reactive in behavioral health. How do you build a proactive content strategy? One that educates, a big thing, differentiates, right? We talk about this a lot with brands in our space, and drives meaningful action.
It's no different than, and I wish I could say I was this guru that invented all of these things, but the beauty is I don't have to be, because I'd screw that up. There are other industries that are way ahead of where the behavioral health industry is at when it comes to a marketing side, both social, digital, even in the business development, face-to-face side. Again, if you copy what they do, you'll get the results that they get. So it is simple things like hopping on trends on social media, which is important because people need to know you can have fun in recovery. And so having my employees, I get to jump on and do a funny video about something. However, it is the conversations with a lead therapist that says, hey, your family is going to go through this, and having a real direct one-on-one conversation to the camera of letting them know that we're here to support you through that. There's also aspects of it where, you're having these, I just dealt with in vulnerable situations that I've personally put on my pages, which I've had people reach out and be like, I don't know if you want that to be on there because it's not going to make you look in the best light. And again, it's like, it's taking off that mask and saying, no, this is who I am. Like, I had a bad day today. And it's okay. So it's really watching what other people are doing in other spaces. And you see the vulnerability sells. People really feeling like they know who you are sells, right? And when I say sells, it's not sells the treatment, but it sells them on choosing you over going to another treatment
100%.
center,
Yep.
Which I think is very, very important to do. And it's easy for me. I like I said, I've had that experience where nowadays on TikTok, you can put up a little banner behind you that says, I own a treatment center, ask me anything. And you get some wild people on there, but you get people who generally start conversations and ask. And when they see you in a vulnerable space of saying like, no, like your son's struggling with this, cut him off, set a boundary. My husband says he loves me, but he won't stop doing this. And it's like, well, the reality of it is he probably loves doing drugs right now more than you, but that doesn't mean that he can't get better. But his actions are telling you one thing and his words are saying another thing. You have to put a boundary down to get better. And sometimes when you have some of those tough conversations that rub people the wrong way, it incites change as much as they don't like it. No different than you were speaking earlier about the guy sat you down and said, you're not going to like what I have to say. Right. And then a lot of times in the moment, it doesn't click with them. But when they reflect on it for an hour or two and they go, dang, he's right.
100%. And that was a moment of revelation, right? Like, oh, wow. And something clicked. And that's what we want. Something clicks, right? And something resonates. I'm learning right now, talking to you, Wade, like that is a massive differentiator, right? You, the CEO of a high growth business in the space that's having good outcomes. And keep in mind, your competitors, for lack of a better term, they don't have their face on their website, right? You can't find these people, never mind like engage with them live. Like this is the guy who started this business and he's in recovery. This is where I want to send my kid, right? That is so different, right? That probably is why you're growing as quickly as you are and helping as many people as you are. Keep doing it, please. We're going to talk about admissions. When you're building your admissions playbook, for lack of a better term, or strategy, what role did data and experimentation play? And second part of that, are there any tools or tactics you'd recommend to new founders, right? Newco Behavioral Health Center, and it's day one of the calls being live. What advice would you give?
Stay patient. Test often, A/B test different ads, test different videos, things that you think in your head are going to be home runs, knocked out of the park, grand slams, whatever you want to call it, probably are not what resonates with your customer. So don't fall in love with what you think is great. Fall in love with what the market says is great. Test often and just try to do one thing well. The one thing I see a lot of competition doing and competitors, which I probably shouldn't be saying on this because I think it really helps us, is they're always trying to add new things and change things up and become a different this and a different that, instead of just knowing what you do and being proud of what you do. If you do substance abuse in your mind better than anybody else, claim that you are the niche of you do substance abuse better than everybody else. if mental health is your jam, and maybe specifically mental health with women or trauma-informed mental health is your jam, go down that route. Don't try to be everything to everybody, because then you're nothing to no one, you know? When we started, we knew what we would do really well. We knew what our bread and butter was, and that's what we wanted to go out and portray. Now, we take one-offs here and there of this, especially because people will beg to have their son or daughter in our facility. Absolutely. But that culture has been driven with my staff from the core down, where I know, even though I am the face and I still take calls and I'll do some of that type of stuff, that if I step away from the company, which I've done for, a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month at a time, whatever it has to be, this thing operates by itself, and they know exactly what to do. They know who we are as a brand, and they know what we're trying to accomplish. And then that lives on. But that started with creating the culture, not only me, but a few different core individuals. And when that culture is started, it spreads like wildfire. Mm-hmm. Test often, A and B test. Don't fall in love with your own ideas, and stay patient in what you do. Don't say today, oh, we're going to be a mental health facility because now we saw 3 more mental health calls come in and we really need the admission. Stay to your beliefs.
Yeah. The admissions piece, right? So we know from data, even though we're taught to be open-minded and not to judge and don't form conclusions quickly, people do the exact opposite. They form a conclusion really quickly. And that first touch is so important. The first impressions really matter. We know that from studying human behavior. If I make a call to Plugged In Recovery, hopefully I get a human fast.
So yeah.
Okay. So I get a human fast. To talk to me about that. So I get a human fast. That's important, right? And then what do I feel the first time I'm talking to someone on your team? How do you train them and coach them?
Absolutely. So when we talk about an admissions call, and part of the reason Plugged In Recovery exists is twofold. Number one is I actively tried to seek help, and I really didn't like the experience I had. I was in Minnesota. I was about to get married. I had made that tough phone call to say, I finally need help. And the conversation I had with someone was definitely in a call center. And it was, what insurance do you have? Can you send me a picture ID? Okay, you can go here, here, here.
Wait, was that like within the first minute or two of the call?
It was within, for sure, the first 2 or 3 minutes of the call. And
so not about you're struggling, I have empathy. It's how are you going to pay for this?
It was, who are you? What's your first name, last name? Can you send a picture of ID? And what insurance do you have?
So Wade knows years later what not to do.
That was it.
So someone was looking for a conversion.
It was that's all it was, is a conversion. And what I felt was so depersonalized, because they wanted to send me to 3 different states and none of them were in my home state. And I didn't want to leave home. I was about to get married. And what I did is I said, this will never happen to anybody who goes through my facility. What will happen is they will get the call. They will get congratulated for making one of the biggest steps that they're going to have to take.
Love that.
And that if they choose, they don't ever have to feel the way that they're feeling right now ever again. And this can be the last one of these calls they'll ever have to make. And then we'll get to know them as a person. So it is very important that we know who they are. What kind of family support do they have? Do they have kids? Do they not have kids? I want to know who they are and what they struggle with, so I know how to best help them, because we might not be a good fit for them. I just told you earlier that I know what we do the best at. And I know what we're not a good fit at, but I know who are good referral partners that are a good fit for that. So I want to get to know that person and know that we're the right person for them. Because then when we talk about data, then our success rates climb. When we're helping the right kind of people for us, our success rates go through the roof.
Sure.
We found very early on that when we don't help people who aren't the right fit for us, those success rates go down. And it's more important to be successful and give them the help that they need. It's really personalizing that call, congratulating them for making that hard step, being very empathetic to the situation, and knowing them as a person before we make any kind of treatment recommendation.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we know people that we've met that feel safe, that they're welcoming, they're approachable. Usually these people have higher levels of empathy and compassion. These are difficult things to teach and coach. Can you teach that? Can you coach that? And how do you get your frontline folks to really do that the way you know you want your brand represented on that first call?
So I think it's on the admission side, really knowing who your admission staff is and having a lot of oversight and control over who's hired, and then reflecting on their calls. Like I will pull calls, no different than I had to do in the corporate world, is like, hey, come into my office. And it's fun now because we like doing it, but it's coming into my office and let's select 4 calls this last week. You pick them, any of the calls, and let's listen to them together and see how we did.
You're training them, you're coaching them up. I love it.
And so we can have those conversations with them, and we can can pick out pointers, and you'll see pretty fast if someone's not trying to do the job. I can also tell with when the patient comes in and we see, what type of experience they had. When we have people who are talked to appropriately, who know that we are bought into not only them, but their family, our success rates are so high with those individuals that I think when it comes down to leadership style, it's developing those people. Now, when it comes to the frontline staff, I had said this earlier, but the most important people that we have are my BHTs, BPPs. Yeah. They spend the most time with people. Yep. I have the beauty of being able to hire them out of my sober living residences. So I've gotten to know these people for over a year. And so over the course of that year, when I've gotten to know them, I know what kind of character they have. I know when they're around 9 other men or 9 other females, right? How do they show up with compassion? How do they show up when someone screws up? Are they willing to help when someone doesn't do their chore? Do they belittle people? The little characteristics that I get to see if they would be a good fit for our company early on. And then I can go after those people and try to get them.
So your sober living facilities are a great recruiting ground.
That's my biggest recruiter.
No kidding.
That is my biggest recruiter.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So do you have a % of people in your company that have gone through your program?
I think right now, as far as my BHT staff, my beginning level staff, 80% have come through our sober living on the BHT side of it.
Wow.
And then I would say about 25% of my middle to upper staff has worked on that side of the business pre coming into the treatment side of the business. So we all know very well how we handle and show up in those situations.
That's amazing. There's a panelist that I heard earlier today that said from crisis to career.
Yeah.
You're doing that too.
It really is. And
there must be a tremendous level of appreciation and gratitude these people have towards your company, right? Like,
they do, but likewise, the appreciation and gratitude that I have towards them for like changing their life together and then going and helping other people with that, they are my biggest advocates, just like I'm their biggest advocates. When they go in and they tell a patient like, look, you are going to get through this. And on the other side of this, if you want to go to outpatient and stay in sober living, like
I was where you are right now.
Yeah,
that's powerful, man. Yeah. You can't make that up, right? That's some powerful stuff. I could spend all day with you, man. This is so fun. So one more question here, and then we'll wrap up. Looking back, what was the moment you realized your brand was working, not just in attracting clients, but in building lasting relationships and community trust?
I would say it was probably 3 or 4 months in, and everything wasn't great on the inside because we didn't have we weren't legit script certified yet. We didn't have the admissions process completely dialed in yet. We were still figuring out what CRM we were going to use and all of that stuff. So it was a headache in regards to the inside, how I felt about things. I was like, this is chaos. I was crushing it in sober living. And I remember just sitting in a dark room being like, did I screw up? Should I have gone into this? Over the course of the next week, you said the exact same thing. When other people show up in your life and they start saying the same thing to you, it's coming from somewhere higher. And I had people who had just been touched by, maybe it was a patient that had just graduated from there or had talked to one of my staff members, and they just all said, man, what you guys are doing over there is special. What you guys are building is really special over there. We're hearing great things about your program. And again, internally, I was just like, we're in disarray. Like, I don't know the CRM I'm using. I can't track anything. Thank God for recovery.com, because you guys were literally the only thing that we could get qualified leads on when we weren't legit script certified. It was social media and you guys. And we've ramped our partnership up with you guys tremendously over the last year to the point where we're doing it again here. But it was the outside community people telling me all the reassurance of there's an X factor there. There is something special going on in that building and in your guys' organization, that you're now seeing shirts pop up of our logo at different treatment centers and different H&Is. And that's when I really was like, okay, it doesn't matter what's going on in here, but something bigger than me is telling me that what we're doing is right. And I'm just going to hold fast and trust the process. So that was that process for me.
It sounds like you're leaning into elements of a spiritual program, right?
That's it.
To have patience, which sometimes we're not good at.
Yeah.
Do you think if you hadn't received that feedback month 3, month 4, you might have said, not sure if this is worth it?
It felt real chaotic.
Yeah.
It felt real chaotic in my mind and in my heart. But it's one of the biggest advantages of somebody who lives, breathes, and works this program. Yeah. I went to learn to do that in the corporate world.
Right. No.
I went to learn so I could lean into that side and shows up and shows through in every situation I've ever been in. So I'm not going to stop that reliance now. But I don't know. I'm lucky to know that I didn't have to go through not having that feedback because it didn't look good to me on the inside.
Yeah, well, I personally am glad that you are practicing these principles in all your affairs and you're doing great work. It's been awesome having you here today, and keep doing what you're doing, man. Thanks so much for coming here today.
Thank you for having me. Love you guys over here.